entertainment-related new, entertainment-related discussion. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're getting back to the final Fantasy Brave Exvius, and I want you guys to know, for those who have come here for some of my past videos, which last one I did was quite some time ago, we will be doing Brave Exvius videos going forward on a much more consistent basis. Not only your standard reviews and looks at the banner, but just general information and looking at the game a little bit deeper, certain characters, certain different elements. And one of the videos that I did recently, or not recently, but a couple of months back, that was fairly popular was my top 10 tips for beginners. And I wanted to kind of expand on that and maybe update it a little bit, because that was back in December. Things have changed with the game. We got a big update coming in July, which we'll look at in more detail as we get closer to that. And a couple of things I wanted to do. We're going to get a few videos done this week. And what I wanted to do with this video, though, is kind of highlight some 3-star and 4-star gems that might be in your inventory that maybe you're not utilizing that well. When we play this game, we always think about these great 5 stars that come out, especially now that the CG characters are out. But there are a lot of 3-star base and 4-star base characters that can be turned to 6-star that can be very effective. Some of them I consider gems, hidden gems. And we're going to go through that here, and then we're going to do another video that you'll see shortly after this one, where we're going to run through those tips that I did in that last video again, and maybe update them, as well as add in some other elements and guides that will help you along your journey. So now, I made a list of these 4-star characters, and I recorded this video last night, only to find out that unfortunately the audio did not record. So actually, and I had already deleted my list. You know, I had it on a Word, Microsoft Word sheet, and I deleted it. So I'm going to actually go down the list of my roster, and just once I see the characters, I'll know right away which ones that I highlighted. So we're going to start with Zahn. Now, Zahn is a gem. I think everybody agrees this is a gem. This is no surprise. This is a 4-star base that goes to 6-star. Mainly what makes Zahn really good is that he is a fantastic character to take out on farming expeditions. And what's also, now that we know more or less, based on the Final Fantasy Brave Exvius official YouTube channel, that pretty much if you have a rare percentage, a rare finder percentage of 100 or 150, you're pretty much set. There's really nothing beyond that you can do. And so pretty much if you have a Zahn that's fully leveled and awakened his master thief traits to at least a +1, you're pretty much set. You can take him on your little travels to get extra items, extra crystal if that's what you're going for. So I think he's definitely a 4-star gem, but this is one that's much more obvious. I think everybody agrees with that. Another 4-star gem, Warrior of Light. This character has been around since the beginning of the game, and he is still very much in the meta. He's always been in the meta, especially once he got awoken to 6-star. And now he's slowly kind of being pushed out little by little by Bossk. Bossk is starting to become the mainstream meta tank that you want. But the reason you will still see Warrior of Light more than Bossk is because Bossk is a 5-star base, so not everybody has him. In fact, Bossk is the one, pretty much the one 5-star that I have missing that I want the most, and I haven't been able to get him. You know, so hopefully one day he drops down from the skies. But until then, Warrior of Light. If you have Warrior of Light, you are in good shape in terms of having a tank, because Warrior of Light, not only can he do AoE protection against physical damage, but he also can do provoke. Now his provoke's not 100%, but he has it there, so he's just all around a very good character. And furthermore, what makes him so valuable is that he has a 45% break against all, attack, defense, magic, and spirit, 2 on one and then 2 on the other. It's, I think, 48 mana, or magic points if you want to call it that. And so if you have Warrior of Light, you probably do, and I'm pretty sure you guys are using them. Again, it does not take a rocket scientist to figure out that Warrior of Light is very much a 4-star gem. Other 4 stars, now we have Desk here, who was also on my list. This is my my other desk that I'm actually using on my TMR to farm. But what makes Desk good, and the reason I put him in is because there's going to be times you use Warrior of Light and you're not going to be able to break with him. He needs to focus on, provoking and doing AoE. That's 2 turns, and sometimes if you're in a long fight, you're better off just completely casting that and recasting it every other turn, just so you don't have to worry about keeping up with turn counts. So in a pinch, Desk is actually a very good breaker. He's not the best in the game. You still have 5-star base Timothy, who you can use, but again, we know that a 5-star base, you're going to be using lower stats. A lot of the best breakers right now are, unfortunately, 5-stars or exclusives that only come on certain banners. One example of that is 9S, who is a great breaker, but unless you were around for the Nier Automata banner last year, likely you don't have him, okay? And then the other great breaker is CG Lid, another 5-star. Not a guarantee that everybody has her. In between all that is where Desk comes in. And when you need a dedicated breaker, Desk is a pretty good solution. And also on top of Desk, and I'll get to her later, but if you don't have a Desk, Amelia Duel now has upgrades to her breaks as well, if you can awaken them. So those are 2 4-star characters that can kind of fill the gap in as a dedicated breaker if you don't have any of the 5 stars, or if you decide, you can't use Timothy, who's a 5-star base, because his stats are too low. Because Timothy's breaks are a little bit better, but again, he's a 5-star. So if you have a Desk or Amelia Duel, then you have an alternative that I think can be pretty effective. Cognazzo is another 4-star character that I think has a lot of value in certain fights, in particular trial fights, where you are dealing with one enemy who might have one strong attack that you need to provoke onto yourself. He's got great stats, especially if you pot him up, which I potted mine's up. As you can see here, fully potted, he's almost at 5,000 hit points. And then if you have even a couple of items that can boost that up, very helpful. But he's got a very good provoke that increases his defense to a great degree. I've used him a couple of times, used him in the fight against Marlboro, which is one of the hardest trials, and he did fantastic. So definitely if you have a Cognazzo, you want to consider using him as well. Moving on from there, let's scroll down as I will run into more. Okay, so Szell. Szell's actually a 3-star base, and Szell is, if you're starting the game out, you're starting to collect characters. Obviously, you might have a 5-star, you might not. Maybe it's a 5-star that's a healer, not necessarily an attacker. She actually has very, very good attack. She actually has a trait where if you don't equip her, her attack is increased by 100%. That's fantastic if you're a new player, because chances are you're not going to have any items that are going to, especially maybe fist items, that are going to boost your attack very much, where you don't really have to worry about equipping her with attack weapons in the early going. She's going to have a bonus. Now, of course, you got to level her up to get this, but to have that bonus there, I think this is really beneficial for new players, because you can have that high attack and still you can benefit from that high attack, use her in your party, and you'll have someone who's going to perform decently. So that's a great 3. I think she's, I mean, obviously we don't use her now, but I remember when she first went to 6-star, I used her, and I was very surprised at just how strong she was. So, okay, scrolling down the list, Victoria. Here's another 4-star base that goes to 6-star, who has very powerful magic. In particular, her highlight is Firaja. She is another character that is great on trials, in particular 10-man raids. And she can, my cat's meowing at me right now. She's another 4-star base that I think is a gem that can really help you in long, tough fights. Very good mage. And she also has a great Trustmaster, Dark Robe, which is one of the higher magic stats in the game. And it's a robe I have that I farmed, and I use it very commonly when I'm building up my magic characters. So definitely a good one there, Victoria, as well. Veritas of the Earth is another tank that is very good to have early on if you happen to nab him. You could, the downfall with him though, and he's got, obviously, these are his skills here. But the downfall with him is he's very mana-dependent, magic points. And you really have to manage that. But outside of that, he's got an AoE Earth protection, 100% Earth resistance for the entire party. He's got his Incinerating Press, and it's also his Provoke. And then he's got his Guardian. So he's an all-around solid tank to have. As you can see here, high stats. I don't even think I haven't fully potted yet. No, I haven't fully potted. And fully potted, he's at 5,168 hit points. That's high. That's high when you consider he's got no equipment on right now. So definitely a very good tank if you happen to get him in the early going. So let's see here. Other 4-star gems that I like to promote. Soleil, of course. This is another obvious one. An extraordinarily buffer. Even if you can't afford to awaken her, she still has very strong buffs with her dance moves. And if you continue the combo one off the other, it just elevates the buff even more. But it's when you have her awakened that you're really, really getting the most out of her, because of the fact that when you start comboing these buffs back and forth throughout the dance moves, you are getting yourself stat boost of 120%. So if you have a Soleil, you should definitely be using her, especially on trials. There's almost no excuse not to use her. Let's see here. Keep going down. And okay, so Rosa, who even at 5 stars proved her value. 4-star base going up to 5-star. Even at 5 stars proves her value. Now you can awaken her up to 6 stars, which means when you take her on these tough fights, on these adventures or trials, her stats are a little bit better than they are. You know, when a lot of people used her during certain trials and certain raids because of her one skill that is just amazing, which is Bless. And that was one of the primary reasons you used her, because in long fights you needed somebody who could give you that regeneration, in particular the MP. So always it was tough to gear her because her base statistics only gave her maybe a little bit above 2,500 hit points. So you'd have to pound her with hit point percentage, and it was important to get her to at least 5,300 hit points. Now it's a lot easier to do that, so it makes it much better for her to survive. And just this skill alone in long fights and trials and raids is just the value on it is incredible. And if you have her, you definitely should be utilizing her, especially if you're doing those trials. Riku, another 4-star gem, was very meta for a little while there. She's not in the meta as much anymore because of Lotus Mage Fina and other characters. But she, if you have her, if you're a free-to-play player and you're not pulling a lot of 5 stars, but you have a Riku, support-wise, she is just incredible. Her Hyper Null All is a fantastic skill that she gets from her mixed talent, which is right here. And then her Limit Burst. Her Limit Burst gives an AoE auto revive for your whole party. So, and she's got a great way for her Limit Burst to build up really quick. So if you have Riku, you're also in good shape in terms of support. I want to give a little love to Raffi, because there was a time that Raffi was the white mage to have. Before Ayaka, before Lotus Mage Fina, and even before Tillith, it was Raffi. And to some degree, a lot of people still preferred Raffi over Tillith, because when Tillith first came out, she was only a 5-star base where, she only went up to a 5-star, where Raffi went from 4 to 6. And also, Tillith, now, once she hit 6-star, became, some people believe she was better than Raffi. I agree with that. What made Raffi weak in a lot of people's eyes was the fact that she didn't have natural dual cast or dual white magic, which is very common now. That's why you don't really see her around anymore. But I want to highlight her because if you don't have one of those 3, and the chances are you don't, you may not have a Tillith, because she was on the exclusive one-shot banner that if you weren't there to get her, then there's no chance she's not in the pool. And if you don't have Ayaka or Lotus Mage Fina, Raffi is a good substitute. You know, and we're so deep in the game now that there's certain materia that you could find on certain raid events or Moogle King Mog events, dual cast that you can buy. Where back in the day when we first started, you had to farm for the Trustmaster from Loot Mill to get the dual cast. Dual cast makes her tons better. And if you happen to have the Holy Wand, I know some of you who are newer players may not, but if you happen to have done that trial, that 10-man raid, and you got that, it's made for her. So if you don't have Ayaka, if you don't have Lotus Mage Fina, definitely don't want to ignore Refia. I think she still has a pretty good kit, but she is out of the meta more or less now because of those healers. And even some of the other healers have kind of, Rosalia, Santa Rosalia, if you have her, are very good. So, but I'm just saying, if you happen to have her and no other healers, definitely run with her. She's pretty good. All right, so keep on going here. Pardon me. Now, I want to do a quick one. This wasn't on my original list, but I wanted to highlight Rosetta real quick. I've only used her a few sparing times, but I can say if you have Rosetta, very good provoke tank. She's basically a baby Wilhelm, and her Trustmaster is just insane. It doesn't give the stats like, it doesn't give the HP bonus like the Trustmaster from Knight Delita, but look at that, 65 defense and 65 spirit. So she's good to use for a multitude of reasons. If you're building up that Trustmaster, as well as just being a very decent kit, like I said, baby Wilhelm. So that's another good 4-star base going to 6-star. Pardon me, I'm clearing my throat here. I had been sick for a couple of weeks now. All right, so Misty, again, another character. Now, with the magic AoE tanking, she really needs good gear. Not gonna lie. So if you're a new player, I'm not saying don't use her. If you're fighting a fight where magic is heavily used, she could be a saving grace. Depends how strong the magic use is, if you're fighting a trial, I would say she really needs to be geared up. As you can see here, her hit points are not very high at max level, and her spirit is pretty good. So you would basically need to focus her on her HP and her spirit to have a good shot at surviving some of the magic attacks from certain enemies, like I said, depending on when you're fighting. But nonetheless, she has been a saving grace for me on several occasions. So if you have a Misty and you're tackling certain content that's magic heavy, bring her along. Definitely a good gem there. Oops. Now, I would also want to mention Menifee, but the problem is that she's only come around twice. I don't really want to talk about characters that are not on the regular pool, but we may see her again. They did do an event recently, actually a couple months back, where you had another chance to get her. So, if you happen to have her, very good support. Just wanted to highlight that. Now, Amelia we spoke about briefly. Here's another character, a good breaker. Pretty much is what I would just utilize her for. If you're doing, I'm over here trying to focus here. Let me see here. Weapon break, shield break. Now, they're all singular breaks, but again, if you're in a fight where you cannot use Warrior of Light to do some of your breaking, she's a very good dedicated breaker. She's a 4-star base. She also has auto revive, which is very good. You can awaken her break abilities, if I'm not mistaken, and I think they go up to 50%. But if you're a new player, can't afford that, again, if you have her or if you have Desk, you're in good shape, because you may not have some of those higher tier breakers like CG Lid. So moving down here, and I think I want to mention Lexa. She's more recent. I really love Lexa because she is pretty much one of those characters I think we really needed. Tornado is not a very commonly seen skill. It's a great skill to chain with, and we've seen it from Barbarossa, and we've also seen it from Shantoto. Shantoto is a 5-star base, a 5-star max, and Barbarossa is a 6-star max. So you have a great chance of getting a Shantoto. Stats are lowered, but you have a very small chance of getting a Barbarossa because she's a 5-star base. Here comes Lexa, which many people might have right now because her banner it might even still be up. I gotta check, but she's very recent, and she has all those air skills, Erosia, Tornado, and some of you might have seen other videos, other content, Tornado is a fantastic skill to chain with. So I wanted to highlight her, even though she's recent, but she's also a great catch if you happen to get her. So yeah, definitely utilize her for chain finishing some of those larger mobs you might be coming up against. All right, so moving down, I think I have a couple left here, not too many. Some of these are going to be the old school. Here's Garnet. Garnet's been around for a while, but she's another 4-star base to 6-star max that is pretty much coincides very much with that tornado chain. What you'll see in some of these trials or events that people do is they will take like a tornado chainer like Shantoto, Barbarossa, and combine it with summoning Bahamut with Garnet, because she has the increased damage when she evokes an Esper, and they burst down an enemy. So definitely, if you have a Garnet and you have yourself maybe a Shantoto or a Lexa or both, you have a pretty good base shell to attempting some of the harder trials, because you have the chain now to burn down a character. What you would need at that point after that is the gear. Gear is also very important. We got to pad those stats, right? Firion, I think, is still very valuable if it's a character you happen to nab in the early game and you're a fairly new player. He's I believe he was a 3-star base. He goes to 6-star max. And what makes him so valuable is all these killers he gets as he levels up throughout the campaign. He's also got really good base attacks point skills, or rather stats, I should say. And you can gear him up with, as you can see here, an assortment of weapons and armor, and he's just a very good character. Not so much in the meta anymore, as I said, but if you're a new player or a fairly new player and you happen to have a Firion, use him. Use him. Definitely use him. I'll give a little honorable mention to Exdeath. This was a target character for many people when the game first came out. A lot of people would re-roll to try and get Exdeath. There's a lot of other magic users out there now that you can get that are 4-star base or even a 3-star that will probably perform better than him. But what I'm saying is, if you happen to get him and you need some magic, he is definitely a good... him and Kefka are definitely a good alternative if you don't happen to nab... excuse me. If you don't happen to nab a magic user that might be a little bit more recent with a better kit. So definitely don't ignore Exdeath if you get him. But often much, when you're starting the game out, really the physical attacks will be they'll more than suffice. It still is very much an attack heavy meta, even now. So don't worry too much if you don't get a great magic user. But down the road towards the mid to late game, you will need one. I already spoke about Desk, and moving down the list here, Cloud of Darkness, I would say, still has a lot of value if you're in the early game and you happen to pull her. She goes up to 6-star now. As you can see here, she has natural resistances. These don't start at 50%, but they grow as you awaken her. And she has good support skills. She has a decent attack if you build her well. And overall, she's just a very solid support. I would say a support attack class. And if you're in the early game and you do get her, I would definitely encourage you to utilize her. And these are, and again, I'm mentioning these two for you new players. Don't think because you get some of these characters that, I didn't get, the 5-star, whatever. No, these are good characters. They're still very good. They're just not in the late game to end game meta anymore. But in the early to mid game, they're still very much usable and will do the job, and more than do the job for you. Chizuro's another example. Still can do a lot of physical damage if built correctly, and she goes up to 6-star now as well. So if you're another early game player and you happen to pull a Chizuru, be very happy about what you have there. Charlotte, another baby warrior of light, I would call her, but she has a special skill that I love, which is she can also have the party regenerate MP. Just great skill. I have used her on several occasions. and I keep her, and she's ready to go. I mean, I've even potted her, you know, her hit points, her defense, her spirit. I have completely potted her because you never know. You never know when you're going to need that MP region, but you can't use your casters to use it. I put her in, and I've used her before, so she's prepared for me. So if you get Charlotte in the early game, that's really good. Really, really good. Same thing with Cecil. I still think Cecil has a lot of value in the early game if you happen to pull him. And again, I'm talking about these characters because if you're really playing for free, you're not going to see a 5-star for a little while. You might get lucky. You might nab a couple right off the bat. But realistically, you may not see a 5-star. And if you do pull a 5-star, it may not be one you can utilize right away, or it may not be in the slot that you need the most. Cecil is still a very good tank in the early game. And his limit burst obviously is very, very good as well. So, and most of all, he still has a very much relevant TMR with the Excalibur, 120 attack with a light element. So Cecil is a great pull in the early game. He's a 3-star base, goes up to 6 stars now. And again, not only because of his kit and some of the skills he provides and protection he provides for your party, but that Excalibur, believe me, you're going to want that. It's still very much relevant in the late game. So, and as we scroll down, I think, I didn't even talk about Ashe, and she was up top too. So Ashe is a definite gem. Very good kit. If you have her in the early game, if you happen to pull her your first few days playing the game, man, you are in for a treat. Ashe has not only the Thundaja spell, which increases damage over time as you use it consecutively. She has a great chaining move called Heron's Fury. And not only does this chain with a copy of herself, which you're very likely to get, but it also restores HP for all your allies. So in certain instances, especially if you have 2 of her, you can go without a healer and utilize her as not only your chain damage, but your healer as well. If you build her spirit high enough and you build her magic high enough, then sometimes she's all you need in a fight. So yeah, Ashe definitely. Agrius, another one. Baby Orlando. So Agrius has the wonderful chain, Divine Runation, and again, she can chain obviously with herself, anybody in the Divine Runation family. And if you're lucky enough to nab 2 Agriuses during your adventures, or an Agrius and maybe an Orlando or whatever, then you have a chaining combination that pretty much can carry you through the game to the late game. Of course, a lot of it is gear dependent. You have to upgrade your gear as you go, but we'll talk about that as we go. And that's more or less the 4 stars that I like to highlight. There are definitely other 4 stars that if you get them, they're going to help you. But these in particular are ones that I would consider gems that you, even to some cases, you can use now in the late game, but will definitely carry you through the early and the mid game. So don't let them sit there. Utilize them. Make use of them. Don't feel upset if you pull them. Be very happy if you pull them, because, again, this is a game that you play over time. You get better. Your characters get higher in level. You get better gear. So you're always going to have a chance to get these 5 stars. They're not going anywhere. And you never know, you might get them out of nowhere when you least expect it. Then you can slot them in and utilize them. So anyway, guys, I know this was a long video, and I'm sorry for clearing my throat so much. As I said, I just got over being sick. So talking for almost 30 minutes now obviously has its drawbacks. But definitely do not ignore those 4 stars and 3-star base characters, because they can be very useful for you in the game for a long time before you get an opportunity to tackle the hardest stuff, in which case hopefully by then you do have a couple of 5 stars to make the difference. Anyway, that's it for this video. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Click here to watch more content. Or you can click here to become an E.T.N. patron. Don't forget to leave a comment. Also, make sure you like and share this video. If you want to know when the next video is up, click the notification bell next to the subscribe button. And most of all, make sure to click that subscribe button for regular content.